Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Code and the Coding Coders Who Code It. I'm your host, Drew Bragg, and I'm joined today by Travis Dockter. Travis, anyone who is not familiar with you, would you please do a quick introduction of yourself and how people might know you?
Yeah, so probably the only way that people would know me thus far is I'm organizing a conference called Blast Off Rails, and kind of started organizing that last year and posting stuff online about it. And other than that, I go to a few conferences now, so you might have seen me there. But I'm a Ruby on Rails developer for the last maybe 6 years. So excited to be here on Coding Coders and see what trouble we can get into.
Yeah, welcome to the show. So for anyone new to the show, the way this is going to work is I'm going to ask Travis 3 questions. I'm going to ask him what he's working on, what kind of blockers he has, and then ask him to share something cool, new, or interesting that he's recently learned, discovered, built. Doesn't have to be coding related, but it absolutely can be. The name of the show is pretty heavy on the coding aspect. So what are you working on? What do you got going on?
Yeah, so this one is going to be interesting because it is kind of enabled by AI, because there's this sort of branch of software that some people are calling personal software, which is kind of all the stuff that you build just for yourself because you can. And I've built stuff like pre-AI. My version of this was a personal finance app that I actually built originally in the boot camp that I learned to code in. So I built this personal finance app because I had used other personal finance trackers and stuff like that, and none of them really worked quite exactly how I wanted them to. So I was using Excel sheets for the longest time. And then when I learned how to code, I was like, oh, that's the first thing I'm going to make. I'm going to turn this Excel sheet into an actual app, make it easier to use. And that was my pre-AI thing. But the only thing that I could really do, because I didn't have all the time in the world, was that app. That was the thing I focused on. But now AI has opened up this portal where you can create a lot of stuff. And if you only need something simple, like a personal finance tracker or a personal like to-do or calendar project management, I recently made what I'm calling a house health app, and it kind of gamifies cleaning my house, because
nice.
Otherwise,
otherwise
it's like one of those things that I'm like, I have to do that thing. And this like gives you a score. It gives your house a score. And I have like rooms for the house and different tasks for each room. And you have to keep those scores up by doing the tasks, by sweeping and mopping the kitchen, by wiping down the sink and the mirror in the bathroom. And this is stuff that I've always thought about, and I'd be like, that would be cool to make, but never did because I just didn't have the time. But now I can sit down and bang out something like this in an hour, and then you have it. And something also that I kind of want to get your take on, because I haven't heard anybody else talk about this. I'm not a security person. I don't take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, but my approach to authentication for this suite of personal software that I'm now writing is no auth on the applications. Just put it on a server with Tailscale, Tailnet on it. And I'm the only one that can access it from my devices. I didn't build this for anybody else. Nobody else is ever going to use this. So why go through the pain of maintaining authentication and stuff if I can just put it on a private network that only I can access from all my devices and call it good?
I think the Tailscale approach is probably a really good one, because there's so many approaches you could take, right? You could pop it on a server and just have the auth sit on the server. You hit the endpoint and you have to give the password. There's attack vectors for anything, right? Even Tailscale, you're relying on Tailscale to be secure. Security, in a lot of ways, you have to do what's right for the situation. you might have two different locks on your house, right? A deadbolt and a door handle. But a properly motivated individual is getting into the door. But if you don't have to worry about a properly motivated individual getting into your house, there's no point in like putting a steel door with multiple reinforced hinges. Like that doesn't make sense for the level of security you need. You do need a lock on your door. Like it would be foolish to have a door with no lock. But for most of us, unless you live in like maybe the bad part of town and you need a little something extra, bars on the window, whatever, security is a lot of like risk assessment and stuff. And like, it's really easy to be like, oh, I need all of this layers of security. And it's like, but if I'm the only person accessing it, do I really need that? What is the chances of someone giving a shit enough about my personal data to go in there? Like, it's not an account that stores a credit card. It's a game to keep my house clean. You're not even like storing blueprints to your house in it. And even then, like, who wants that? Does it matter? Like, yes, AI is like this super insecure thing because it doesn't know how to do that risk assessment for you. It's a pattern matching tool. So it's pulling patterns off the internet that anybody else can pull off. There is all of this, oh, hey, AI software is insecure. And it's like, well, sure. So is the very first app I ever built in boot camp. It was only even remotely secure because I used Devise and it did it for me. And I'm trusting that Devise is doing it right. You know what I mean? But that's app level. Then there's the server itself. Do you have a root password? Is it all SSH? Can only one device get into it? What happens if that device is left at a coffee shop and someone picks it up? It's risk assessment. You have to assess, like, if someone actually got into the server, how fast would I know that they're mining Bitcoin with it and turn it off in wherever the host is or whatever? Or is it a Raspberry Pi that runs in my basement and I can just go unplug the damn thing? That's technically more secure than starting up a Hetner box or a DigitalOcean droplet because I literally can unplug the damn thing. I don't know. But to your point, I am also not a security expert. I've been doing this long enough to have bitten myself in the ass a few times with security related things, but not a security expert. And AI is a very new level of attack vector.
Yeah, there is no perfect solution for security. And in my mind, trusting a network level solution like Tailscale with personal, we'll call it vibe coded software, makes slightly more sense to me in that what you're saying, like the right tool for the job kind of thing and the right level of effort and level of security for your situation. Yeah. I had never used it before, actually. I had only heard about Tailscale and people, I don't even know what people were using it for when I heard about it. I think it was just people that had like home labs and were doing interesting things with their own Raspberry Pi servers and whatnot. But I only vaguely knew what it was for. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I could just use it for that and not have to put authentication on this application and have to sometimes work around that authentication system, especially when you're working with AI and it's like going down all these rabbit holes of like, oh, we need to add security so that other users can't access your rooms or your tasks. And like, oh, we need to attach this, model to users so that you can access your, and I'm like, okay, but nobody else is going to use this app.
Yeah.
Why am I spending tokens on all of this stuff when I really don't need to be? So yeah, I was like, oh, I wonder if I could use it for that. And it's working well so far. I enjoy it.
Are you overpaying for your cloud hosting? The good news is you don't have to migrate to bare metal and become a DevOps engineer just to save a few bucks. Instead, embrace the cloud and cut your bill by 30% or more by using Judoscale. Judoscale monitors and autoscales your web and worker services, making sure you only pay for the resources you really need. Heroku, AWS, Render, We've got all those and more. And when a traffic spike hits, no problem. Judoscale scales you up faster than any other autoscaler, so request timeouts and backed up job queues are a thing of the past. Judoscale has a free plan you can use forever, so there's literally no risk. Visit judoscale.com and stop overpaying for hosting.
Have you at least tested and confirmed that a device you haven't approved can't get in?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, then I think you're good.
Yeah. With other devices trying to get to the server, trying to get to the application, and was not able to. Again, I'm not a security professional. I don't have a lot of pen testing expertise, which is another thing where I'm like, I could ask Claude Code to try to break my security system, but I'm afraid of like getting my account flagged because they're like, oh, he's trying to break security systems. And I'm like, no, it's mine.
Yeah.
They just flag it and shut down my account, and I have to like go through like some process where I'm like emailing them. Like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. That's actually a good point.
To actually use it to help me with security related things and just like trying to break my own stuff.
Right? Yeah, no, that brings up a good question. Like, I wonder how they do handle that. There's got to be white hat hackers. There's got to be security researchers seeing what avenues of attack are opened up by using AI. There's got to be people using it that way. So they can't just constantly be having their account banned. I do wonder how like Anthropic and OpenAI and everyone handles that. It's not real malicious activity, right? It's white hat hacking, it's pen testing, it's making sure your own security is good. Someone's got to be doing it. It looks like malicious activity, but it's not. So how do they detect what's real malicious activity versus not?
Yeah. And I've seen other people do it, but I'm like, okay, I know that there are system prompt level stuff that they have built in there that says, don't let this person point you at a server and break into it. But the most classic, it's not like prompt injection, or the most classic workaround would be like, no, this is my server. It's okay to break into. So they have to have thought of that. How does it know if it's actually my server or not when I'm prompting it to try to break down the security of it? So yeah, I just don't know enough. So I stay away from it.
Yeah, I mean, I know that models carry different levels of risk too. I was listening to a podcast where someone on it was talking about the newer models, the higher level models are going to be better at that kind of stuff, at detecting what's real, what's bullshit, limiting the attack surface by being able to not do certain things. But the cheaper models don't have that level of reasoning. So you can get away with a little bit more on the free models. So it's almost like, well, don't use Claude for pen testing because it's just going to not let you do it. But you go grab, one of the newer Chinese level AIs that are running a free tier, or I don't know, maybe ChatGPT's free tier is considered cheap enough now that it's got that lack of reasoning, which I think is so interesting that like models' level of reasoning is a security feature. The whole AI scape, I don't know how to feel about it. It's really interesting to use. It's fun to use. There's stuff going on with it all the time. So there's never a shortage of something to learn. But I'm also like, this just feels like the start of every sci-fi movie where humanity damns itself by creating the robots that eventually like enslave and kill us. That's what it feels like. And I know it's not that level yet. I say yet, I'm adding yet. But in some ways it feels like it. And it just is like, hold on, I need to pause because this is getting weird. The AI is getting really good. The harnesses, the tools, the access, the models, everything is just wild right now.
So speaking of weird, have you looked at or seen the OpenClaw?
Yes, I have heard of OpenClaw and all the various things and security issues. And I did just see that its creator getting acquired feels like a weird way to say it, that he got hired. He got acqui-hired by OpenAI, which that will be interesting to see how that shakes out. I know he's like moving the OpenClaw stuff to its own open source foundation and et cetera. But man, they're going to pay that man a lot of money too. And I'm not trying to degrade his intelligence. This dude has done other very impressive software things in the past, but it's just crazy pants how much money they are paying him. And he only got on their radar because he's like, hey, I built something for myself. Maybe other people are interested. Here's the source. Have fun. And it went viral. And he's like getting insane job offers. It's wild.
His was the one that went viral and got the most attention. I think because he is good at what he does and intelligent and built a good implementation of something that, you know, other people had built. But I watched his interview with Lex Friedman.
Yeah. That was a beast of a podcast. What was that, like 3.5 hour long episode? I'm like,
yeah, it took me like a week and a half to watch it. In the episode, he like alludes that he's like talking with some big company about getting acqui-hired. And the announcement had already come out that OpenAI had hired him like before I was finished with the podcast. Yeah. So I honestly think part of what made his so successful was that the personality piece of it and like the soul MD and everything that like made it kind of like close to that AGI kind of thing that people are looking for. And his was most interacting with a digital human, and people find that really interesting. So they kind of all glommed onto his project. And it was a very well done project, had a lot of interesting pieces to it. And I haven't installed it or anything, but again, that whole personal software thing, I want to build my own very simple implementation of that and hook it up to all these apps that I'm making, because that's like the next step is like, okay, I have all these personal apps that I've created. Let me hook them all together with this personal agent that can then send me an email this like every morning, like, why haven't you cleaned the kitchen in 3 weeks? Kind of give me a little kick in the pants to get going, or, you know, just remind me about calendar stuff. That's just like a cool, fun thing that is on the edge. Have you seen that? I think it's an XKCD comic where it's like how much time you spend building a tool versus how much time it saves you, and like whether it's worth it or not. None of the stuff that I build makes it on that scale.
No, but I mean, for anyone who hasn't listened to this podcast, if you have an extra 3 hours and you're interested in like maybe what the future landscape of AI looks like, it's worth a listen to, or maybe finding a condensed version or something. Like, despite how you may feel about Lex, it is interesting to hear from the guy. I think the biggest takeaway, at least for me, the biggest takeaway from that whole thing was his like quote of like, it's hard to compete with someone having fun, right? Like he wasn't building a product. Yep. He wasn't building even like a tool that will become a SaaS product because I built it to solve my own problems and now you can pay me to solve yours. Like he just built a thing because he wanted to, saw it was cool, open sourced it, let other people, and was just like, hey man, I'm having fun. You can't compete with me because I'm not competing with you. I'm just sitting here having fun. I don't give a shit if this is $1 billion product or a zero negative on my bank account, you know? Like he doesn't care. He's like, I don't care. Like I'll use it however I use it. And if you want to use it, go have fun. And I'm like, man, that's the dream, right? Like that you just get to sit here and have fun. High school, the first time I found programming, that was it, man. Like I was having so much fun in the computer lab every day. So much fun learning how to program calculators so I could cheat on math tests, or like, oh, okay, I can add games to my calculator now because I understand this and that. And then I lost it. And when I rediscovered it, when boot camps became a thing, I was just like, oh, right. I forgot how much fun it is to just be like, I can do anything with a computer. Given enough time, I can build it. The knowledge is out there and exists, and I can figure it out over a long enough period of time. And that time with AI has been shortened so much, which is why it's fun. I think there's a lot of room for improvement with it. it's great at spinning up a greenfield app. But the reason why we get paid the money we do is not to spin out greenfield apps. It's to maintain 10, 12, 20, 30-year-old applications that are still somehow running and are behemoths and like database tables with thousands upon thousands of tables. Like AI will get there eventually, but like we will have a place in that for a very long time because we have built monsters of software that AI would struggle to keep in its context window. It'll get there, but yeah, it's yeah. It is fun. It is a lot of fun. It's nice to have that level of like, oh shit, I wish I had a gem to do X. Why am I wishing this? Why not just, okay, open code, pull it up, put it in plan mode. Let's have a 30-minute conversation about it. Cool, now go build it. I got to go make dinner. I come back. I spend an hour tweaking its code because it writes shitty code. And I like the way I write code better because I'm a pompous asshole. And now my gem that would have never happened because I'm ADHD and I would have had this brilliant idea and never actually executed on it, now exists. And I had a ton of fun planning it and a ton of fun editing the code. And now I have the gem that I wanted to have. And yeah, personal software is totally going to be a bigger thing. Right now, I think it's still relegated to us. You kind of sort of need to have at least a software engineer's mindset to really be able to empower AI. Like the people who are like, I don't know how to code. I'm like, well, you never learned how to code. You know how to break down problems. You know how to do software engineering. You just don't know how to write code. There's a difference. Your brain does do the thing, and now you're using AI to prompt it into building the thing. You just took a different approach than learning how to write code. Not everybody can do that. Not everybody's going to be able to grab ChatGPT and be like, build me an application, and it worked. They're not good at that level of thinking or that type of thinking.
Yeah. There's more friction, much more friction.
Like for now, though.
Yeah.
In the future, I'm sure it'll get to the point where you can say, I need an application to do X, and it'll just be able to pattern match its way through without you needing to iterate very much on it.
Well, that's the thing that people are starting to talk about. But no, I think they've been talking about it for a while. I'm just not that plugged in, but I'm just noticing now is like half the personal software that I've written doesn't really need to be an app. Project management, to do calendar could just be handled by AI in some simple like Markdown files or even just a database. It could just write SQLite queries on a SQLite database, no wrapper around it except for the CLI. And I could just talk with it to know what's on my calendar and what's coming up or to add new things or whatever. You don't even need an application to wrap a database now. That's going to be super interesting in the next couple of years. People just writing AI wrappers to databases that you can do anything with. You don't even need programming knowledge then, really, because all you're doing is talking with a database.
That's almost the more interesting. I can't wait. I can wait because I like my job. But like, I'm very interested to see how you're just talking with the thing. So why are we even bother typing? Why not just the phone say, hey, I need to know blah, blah, blah. And it just, I don't need to click a button. I don't need to do a thing. I'm just talking now. It's going to change a lot about UI and UX, right? Like the old ways of doing UI and UX are going to go out the window because we're not interacting with apps the same way anymore. It's interesting. I almost don't want to be interested because I know it's coming at the cost of like this job that I love, right? Like,
it takes a piece of
it takes a piece of something that I love and was borderline therapeutic for me. Like just being able to headphones on, code, because I've figured it out. I've understood the problem and now I can just vibe code through myself. I can get into the zone and code was great. And someone was paying me for it. And that was awesome. And they still are, right? This isn't a tomorrow or a next year. But in 10 years, my plan used to be retire as a software engineer. Now I'm like, I don't think software engineer is going to be a thing in 10 years. What is like,
maybe
I'm hoping
manager.
Yeah. We're all going to be project managers now. No more ICs. They all go away. They become project managers. On the one hand, I'm like, I hate this thing because it's taking something I love away from me. But on the other hand, it's so interesting. And I've got that, like, I'm so curious about it and I want to know more things about it. And it feels like learning to program all over again. You're just like, wait, I can do that? Wait, how does this work? That felt frictiony. Why can't, like, let's do it this way or that way? Teaching it skills, like growing its ability to do things. It's a tough, weird spot to be in because I want to be like, this is so cool, but fuck this thing.
Yeah, you're addicted to the drug that's killing you.
Right?
And the interesting thing is, like, I didn't make all of these apps before because I felt like I didn't have the time. But now that AI is a thing, before, outside of work, I would spend probably on average less than an hour, but maybe on weekends a little bit more. Outside of work on a work day, maybe less than an hour on average of coding my own stuff, right? Just because you have life and it's hard. And when I have less than an hour, I'm already tired, like my brain is already tired from work, I'll think of something that I want to do and I'll say, that's going to take more time than I have. I'll do it later. I just don't have the time or the bandwidth right now. So I wouldn't. And I would average less than an hour per day outside of work, right? With AI, I probably average like 2, sometimes 3 hours a day outside of work, just because I don't think about, I don't have enough time to do that. I just start and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to spend half an hour and doing this thing. And I just start and then it stretches. And if I'd done this before, if I spent as much time coding before as I do now, I would be such a great coder.
Yeah. Yeah. But does that matter? How much does code quality matter anymore? This is something I've been talking about with other people at work, even my boss, my CTO, like, because sometimes I'm like, man, AI really sucks at writing code. It's overly verbose, or like, this is so dumb, or like, it doesn't use good idioms or whatever. It like crappy code. And then I stop and I think, and I'm like, but I'm also not going to be interacting with this code much anymore. AI is. And if this is what's easier for AI to read, does that matter? It's a weird spot because I do think it matters, because I do think that there's at least in the near future, like a limit of how much context AI can keep in its window. That exists now, but I think that there's a limit of like, all right, we can't get much more without it being like on-prem level of like only enterprise level can have an AI that can understand enterprise big enough app where we're going to have to say like, you should write good readable code because you will need to interact with it to prompt the AI to interact with it correctly. When your app breaks in production, you want to quickly understand and fix it, not sift through logs for the next hour. That's where Honeybadger comes in. Honeybadger notifies you of errors, outages, and performance issues as they occur and helps you respond instantly when your systems go down. When you need to dig deeper, Honeybadger's advanced query engine helps you reach into your logs and grab just the information you need. With error tracking, performance and uptime monitoring, log management, and support for over 10 languages, Honeybadger is the best tool to gain real insight into your application's health and performance. Best of all, it's free to get started, and setup takes less than 5 minutes. Be sure to check out honeybadger.io. That's www.honeybadger.io. And thank you to Honeybadger for their continued support of the show.
Okay, this brings me to the next question of the podcast.
The blockers? Okay. Yeah, okay. So what kind of blockers do you have? And if you don't have a current blocker, what's one that you recently had? And how did you go about solving it?
Great. Okay, my blocker. Docs, documentation, and project history as part of documentation. We have this constant problem at work where we have a lot of different projects and we'll like make some decision and we'll say, oh no, we're going to go with this tool, or we're going to go with this implementation or this strategy. And we'll say, okay, where do we document this? Because maybe it applies to multiple projects. So it's not just one, but it doesn't apply to all projects. And then we'll have the conversation about like where to document it. And then maybe we don't end up documenting it, or we put it in some place that we don't think to look later. And then a couple months later, you come to this same kind of decision and you have the discussion again. And you're like, I know we made this decision in the past. Now I don't remember why. And that's been a problem for the entirety of the history of software, right? And now with AI, the friction to writing docs and to documenting things like decisions is very low. You can just ask it, hey, can you look at this code base and write me a README? And it will go and do that. You can have like a coding session with Claude. And after you're done and you've like worked through some problem, you say, hey, can you take this session and write some like lessons learned from it and put it somewhere in the code base? And it'll do it, right? But now, because the friction is so low, my problem becomes, how do you organize this information? And I think a lot of people are working on that right now, but it's still, where do I put this? And how do I make it useful in the future to like help yourself and to like give the like whole memory problem with coding agents, make it available to coding agents so that they can say, oh, remember this decision? We made it for this reason. That's why I'm going to implement this tool in this way, or not use this tool, or whatever it is. Have you guys like had that discussion at your work? Like, are you doing anything for this? Or I'm looking for ideas.
Yeah, a little bit. We have an agents MD file in basically all of our core Rails directories. So like in models, we have an agents file in app models, and it only concerns itself with models, right? So the expectation at the high level, the project level agents file is, if you're working with models, load up this file, right? And it only has certain decisions made, like, hey, we have this model, we refer to it as this. Like, we have users, we call them creators. We have students, and those are students, but in this next version, we call them members. Just so that like when we're talking to the agent, it knows. We don't have a great way of AI documentation for certain other decisions yet. We've talked about it a lot. There's been some back and forth. I have a personal strategy for like my personal projects, and for my personal work at work is I use Obsidian. I used Obsidian prior to AI, but what I really think has been cool with AI is I kind of went off, wrote a skill with AI's help on how to use Obsidian's flavored Markdown. Obsidian's got a new CLI, which has made things even less frictiony. It can do a lot of like internal linking. So instead of needing to be like, reference this file, like it just talks about a decision we made, and it names it, and it wraps it in these double square brackets, and that tells it to go look for this file, and you can use regular Markdown. But it makes these coding session summaries really simple, like 1 or 2 paragraphs. Don't need to bog it down with like key lessons learned. It can just say in the session, like, we discussed using this pattern or this thing. And when it says we discussed using this pattern, there's a document in my patterns directory that describes the pattern, whether it's Hotwire, see Hotwire documentation, or if it's like actually more of an internal pattern, like here's the breakdown. So it works well for me because I was using Obsidian before. I'm still getting used to some of the new aspects of it, but it's a bit helpful for AI because it doesn't need to load that up into context all the time. In my personal global agents, I explain how my Obsidian directory works so it knows where to look for stuff, but it's not great yet at always saying, oh, I need to pull up this, or I need to go take a look at that. I do still have to say, like, this project relates to another project we worked on, pull up that session summary and go. And then it can pull up like, oh, okay, we're going to use this pattern and this is why we made this decision. Or, oh, here are the gotchas because of the table naming or whatever issues we ran into last time. That is good, but I still need to kind of prompt it to remember that this has been a thing already. And that's been the biggest challenge for me, at least, remembering that every time we start an agent session, it knows nothing. It's got access to all the information in the world, but it knows jack shit about you and your project. And that's why like creating skills and commands that are very structured help it so much, because you can't assume it remembers the last session, because it doesn't, unless you had it write stuff down. But the memory problem is a real big problem at a certain scale. And I'm sure someone's going to figure out something fancy at some point. But yeah, for individual context windows, I've made huge strides in my personal workflow by using Obsidian and teaching it how to structure docs and using templates and linking stuff together and allowing it to use my second brain as its second brain. But just like me, I have to remember that a note exists about it. It can't remember that. So I need to tell it, because I don't need it to remember whatever pattern we're using for X every session. So can't load that up every session. But when it is appropriate, I need it to pull it up. I'm looking forward to the time where I don't need to say, remember about this pattern. I can tell it, remember, we're going to use this pattern. And it knows, okay, that pattern is stored in Obsidian here. But it's still, there's a lot of manual intervention there. And we don't have a good way of doing it at a company level just yet. I think when I get a little bit more comfortable with my current workflow, I'll pitch something similar to the team of like, hey, we usually hold our architectural decision documents here. What if we expanded it a little bit and instead of AI, we have a whole bunch of local stuff? What if we just started dumping stuff there and teaching the AI how to search stuff up? Like if we did it in a structured way, it shouldn't be that hard. And then see where it goes and how it evolves. I think AI is so fresh and so new that we're all going to have to figure these things out, right? Like Rails wasn't built when web applications was built. It came from the frustrations of building enterprise software and all the fucking boilerplate and configuration that went in every single time. And someone finally was like, I've had enough of this. Here's a better way of doing it. And now a ton of people, and not just Rails, Django and Sails and all these other Rails inspired frameworks for other languages exist because it was like, yeah, this is better. I think those patterns will emerge organically as people play around with it. I'm not waiting. I'm just tinkering with my own. I don't have a good answer for you yet, but that's what I've been doing.
That's kind of the fun part about being a programmer right now. And it is also part of maybe the bad part too. But
yeah. We're helping it get better at our jobs so it can take our jobs. Yeah.
It's kind of fun. Teaching it how to make us obsolete is kind of fun. Yeah. I haven't looked at how OpenClaw does this, but apparently they've done it well with being able to recall stuff. There's also the QMD, I think, is the like CLI search for Markdown. I think Shopify is from Shopify but anyway, yeah, that's cool. I hadn't thought about using Obsidian CLI. I heard that they had come out with CLI, but I hadn't thought about using Obsidian features in your Markdown files, like the linking and stuff, so that it's not having to draw these connections. The AI isn't having to do that.
You don't necessarily need to have Obsidian. You can just tag files, right? Like it is nice that Obsidian offers you a structured way of searching and building dashboards and whatnot, where like I can build a dashboard and it knows to go and look at that dashboard when I give it the good morning command because it looks at all my to-dos from the day prior and whatever. When I tell it to wrap up a session, it knows exactly where to put the session, how it should look because there's a template. That stuff could also be just in the command itself, like here's how to structure it. But it is nice to have the Obsidian way of doing it that's already been iterated on, right? Like Obsidian's already solved some of these problems. So it's nice to use it that way and have some structure for the AI. Whether or not it's the best way, I don't know. It just works for me right now. And I'm still tinkering with it. And almost every day I tweak something about the setup, or every week, when I run the command, my weekly wrap up command, I go, oh, what would be better? Or what I wish it had done? Or, there's still a lot of manual. And it's still like coding, right? Like we build the simplest thing and then we iterate on it. We add more to it and it'll evolve over time. And I'm sure someone will solve it in a way that either gets absorbed into how Claude handles its internal memory at the model level, and maybe it is more of like the OpenClaw way of doing things. But yeah, we'll see. It's interesting. It's an interesting problem to solve because the models have amnesia. They know nothing about what's going on other than what we load into it, but they have a small context window. You can't load everything. You can't just be like, here's my app. So a little bit of job security is nice right now because I know our app better than the AI does, but I don't know for how much longer. We'll see. Maybe it's worth you looking into too, as how can Obsidian solve some of these issues that I'm having? And the cool thing is you can just ask the AI, hey, I'm having this problem with your memory. Considering a tool like Obsidian, what do you think? And it might give you some interesting suggestions. There's some resources online. Help unblock you a little bit, or
that gives me some things to think about.
As much as the memory problem is interesting, and I'm sure someone's going to solve it, I'm wondering how long going to take to get to the point where token efficiency is so valued that that's what we put on our resume. How token efficient we are, how good we are at getting good results by using less tokens, and what tools we have built to say, oh, I built an agent harness that does X, Y, or Z under the hood before it prompts the LLM and it saves 20% of your tokens or whatever and reduces costs. I know we have a pretty big budget for it at work because we're still in the exploration mode and we know we need to, but there's got to be a tipping point where people go, okay, I'm not willing to spend this much money on this thing anymore.
Right.
Let's get efficient.
You put on your resume, migrated this many users to this new system and shut down the legacy system or something like that. But in the new age, you have that line on your resume, but it says using only 150,000 tokens or something like that.
Yeah, you go to join a new org and they're like, let's see your Claude Code stats.
Yeah.
How much money are you going to cost us in addition to your salary? I don't know. Maybe that won't happen. Maybe the models will continue to get more efficient and cheaper and it won't be a problem. But maybe because we're having a huge shortage in RAM and GPUs and all the stuff that it uses. So that stuff's going to start costing a premium. Maybe it is going to happen. I've already started playing with the idea of okay, which model's better at planning? Which model's better at building? Let's try this mode where I use Claude Opus in plan mode, and then I use OpenAI Codex in build mode, and start looking at the differences and stuff. And then I use OpenCode, where most of my team is using Claude Code. There's a few of us using OpenCode, and OpenCode's really cool because it's really easy to switch models. So I've gotten to play with, this task is not a big ask. I'll give it to a dumber model, a not as expensive model, because I just don't feel like doing this boilerplate BS, but I don't think it needs the deep reasoning of Opus or Codex. So that doesn't matter right now because we don't have any restrictions, but I'm trying to get the muscle memory so that when we do have restrictions, and if we do have restrictions, that the muscle memory is already there to certain tasks, certain models. Don't you don't give a senior engineer a junior level task because it's not cost effective. I don't know if that's going to be a thing in the future, but I have a sneaking suspicion it will. So I'm already trying to plan around that.
Yeah, or just using the right tool for the job, or the right programming language for the right application. It's going to be important, I think. There's another tool called Counselors that Aaron Francis made. And it basically is giving the same prompt or problem to multiple models at once. And then one model will kind of summarize what they all said and kind of bring it all together and see if there is one implementation that is best fit from all of these different perspectives.
Interesting.
I thought that was kind of cool. Probably can get expensive to do
Oh,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, interesting to like get the different perspectives, and then maybe you just have one implement it based off of the best kind of case that was built from all of them. But I think efficiency will be important. Right now, people are kind of throwing it to the wind because you just have to experiment. There's just so much happening.
How do you know if you don't experiment?
Yep. You have to be free.
So the last question, my favorite, is what is something cool, new, or interesting that you've recently learned, discovered, built, whatevering, vibe coded, doesn't matter, that you want to share? Doesn't have to be coding related. It absolutely can be.
I will plug Blast Off Rails here. It is new, so this will be the first time this conference has happened, and I hope that it will be cool and interesting. I'm trying my very hardest to make it that. But yeah, it's happening this summer, June 11th and 12th, and it is a place for people to gather and kind of get energy. That's the reason that I have gone to and continue to go to conferences is for me, there isn't really a substitute for the energy that you get from being in a room with a bunch of people that are interested in the same things as you and being kind of forced to sit through these talks. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but for me, I'll see these interesting talks like YouTube videos. There's recordings of talks. There's people that put stuff on YouTube. There's interesting blog posts that I always bookmark. I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool. I'm going to listen to that later. I'm going to watch that later. I'm going to read that later. And I don't get around to it. But at a conference, you paid money to be in this room and people are going to give you the blog posts, give you the YouTube video live. And you set this time aside to do that. And that's really special to me. So there's also a ton of other conferences happening that I'm going to them and I'll just plug them as well. There's RBQ in Austin in March, I believe into March. And then there's Blue Ridge Ruby happening in North Carolina.
Yeah, Asheville, North Carolina. That's Jeremy Smith's baby. I've been to that one a few times. That's a great conference.
So that one's kind of still
newish.
Because
yeah,
they did it and then took a year off and then they're doing it again. So that one's returning. But then there's Blast Off Rails in June 11th and 12th. And then there's RubyConf in July. So I'm planning right now on going to all of those. So it's going to be a busy year, but I'm super excited.
Don't forget, there's Rocky Mountain Ruby in October.
Yeah.
I don't think they've announced the dates yet, but that's been going strong. And I love that conference. I love the conference. Spike and Becky do such a great job putting it together. And I love Boulder, the city that it's in. I have pitched to my wife moving there on more than one occasion because I just love it out there. I love seeing the regionals come back, but also I'm like, damn, there's so many conferences I want to go to. I don't have the time to go to all of these. It's like trying to structure my calendar. We get some time to go to conferences, but not a ton. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to use PTO for some of this. And which places does my wife want to go to? Because then I can roll it into a vacation where she won't want to murder me for using all of my vacation time going to conferences. So yeah. Actually, the one interesting thing that stands out about Blast Off over some of the others is it's Blue Ridge Ruby, it's Rocky Mountain Ruby. Yours is Blast Off Rails, not Blast Off Ruby. So you're focusing more on the Rails aspect than just the general Ruby. Was that an intentional decision because everyone else was Ruby and you wanted to be different? Or was it just, well, I use Rails, or you wanted to keep the topic on Rails and be less about the Ruby language? What was the motivator to making it Blast Off Rails?
It was partly to sort of differentiate it from the more general Ruby conferences. Like I think it was like random piece of information from some book I read that was like, actually making the thing more niche makes it more interesting to people. And you're more likely to get people to, whatever it is, buy your product or come to your conference or use your tool or whatever, if it's more niche, because you can actually focus on satisfying people more because you are doing a more specific thing.
It. Yeah,
and
it makes sense.
For me, I am more interested in the Rails stuff. I haven't written a lot of other software, to be honest. So I am mostly Rails apps. So that's like always been what I've kind of gravitated towards at conferences. So I was like, you know what, let's make this conference more specific, and hopefully that will make it more interesting, because you can expect like, oh, I'm a Rails developer, I make Rails apps, I'm going to go to this conference, and it's single track. So if you're not interested in a talk, then you're out of luck. But if you're interested in Rails and you come to this conference, you're going to get Rails content and stuff that's applicable to you. So yeah, ended up going with Blast Off Rails instead of Blast Off Ruby.
Okay, cool. And Albuquerque, New Mexico is definitely somewhere I haven't been for a conference before. Is there a big tech scene in Albuquerque? Is it just, that's my backyard, so screw it, everyone come here, it's a pretty cool place and you're about to find out? Or what's Albuquerque?
I think there's a couple advantages to having a conference in Albuquerque. One is it's kind of centrally located. It's still in this like southwest of the US, but for most people, there's at least only one layover. A lot of times there's a lot of direct flights here from most, major airports. And our airport is also really small, so it's enjoyable. So you have the best of both worlds. Like you have a lot of direct flights, but there's only like one or two a day from all these cities. And so the airport's still pretty small, and it's not a nightmare to find your way around and stuff like that. There's one terminal, like you're not like taking a train around.
You just described my least favorite part of some of these conferences.
Yes. But Albuquerque is a cheap in terms of like cost of living, and it's cheaper to put on a conference here. And it's also, your hotel is not going to be $300, $400 a night to be near the conference. There's like $175 a night hotels that are within walking distance of this venue. So, which is the Albuquerque Museum, which I think is going to be really awesome. Everybody that comes to the conference also just has free access to the museum, so you can learn about the place that you're coming to. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff here. We don't have like big tech companies here. I mean, there's Facebook data centers and stuff, but I think it's just a nice place to visit, and nice weather in June. It's just a nice place to have a conference and have it be a overall generally good experience for every kind of person. So I'm really excited for people that haven't been here to come here and experience it.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I like how accessible it'll be from a cost standpoint too, especially with not every software company out there is sending people to conferences right now. So a junior might have to pay their own way. And if this is going to be the most cost-effective conference they can make in the year, that's a pretty big selling point. It can get expensive going to a lot of conferences. So
we have like a budget for conferences at work, and it's really easy to blow through that really quickly, because you're a couple $100 at least for the flight. If you're going to stay 3 nights for a 2-day conference, at the very least, you're talking about over $1,000 for a hotel or close around there, even if you're staying at like a $300, $250 a night hotel that nowadays is the cheap ones, especially in major cities. You're over $1,000 for every conference that you go to if you're on a shoestring. And I think you could do this conference, depending on your flight, you could do this conference for less than $1,000, because early bird tickets, which There's 30 of them. There will just be that until they're gone. But they're only under $75, $175. And you get 2 or 3 nights, or 3 nights, let's say, at $175 at the Best Western down the street, which is a nice Best Western. I actually worked there before I became a programmer. You have one $40 Uber from the airport, another $40 to get back. Everything else around the conference is walkable. I think it could be a very cost-effective conference.
And your CFP is closed, so you're going to have the announcement for who's speaking soon. Do you have a date?
That'll be coming soon. I don't have a date. Trying to confirm people right now. It'll be probably early March when I make that announcement, just so I can get everybody confirmed and get that all up on the website and everything. So very excited about that, though.
Sounds like it's going to be a great one. Good excuse to go to Albuquerque, New Mexico for the first time. And blastoffrouse.com. Sounds like early bird tickets are very affordable, so don't sleep on those. Where can people find you on the web other than blastoffruby.com?
Because of the conference, trying to get the word out there, I'm on everything. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on X. I'm on LinkedIn. I think if you just search my name, you can find me most of those places. And you might have to look at the picture to try to match my face, because there aren't many Travis Docters in the world, but there's at least like 2 others.
Okay.
So,
yeah. And your doctor it's Dockter.
Yeah. Probably the best way to find me is to look at the Blast Off Rails social account. And I think usually I'm like reposting it or something. You can find me pretty easily.
Yeah, cool. And we can also put links in the show notes to make it a little easier for people to find you. So awesome. Well, thanks for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your time and looking forward to seeing how a Blast Off Ruby comes together.
Yeah. Thank you for the time and all the good conversation.
All right, listeners, we'll see you in the next one.